Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Coffee with the Counselor Graduation Edition. My name is Jennifer, and I am on the school-based team with North Range Behavioral Health, and I am back again this afternoon to talk to the parents as we continue our conversation about the changing landscape of senior year, as well as the upcoming transitions that our kiddos are facing. So go ahead and grab a cup of coffee or your beverage of choice, get comfortable, and let's chat. So during the first week of May, we spoke about grief and loss, and I want to revisit that idea of loss again. Change, whether it's good, bad, or even neutral, is loss. And so this upcoming transition signifies a new loss for parents, and that is your child leaving home. So what do we do with this upcoming loss? We acknowledge it and we embrace the ambivalence around this time. There's so much excitement and joy about the next chapter for your kid, and you've seen all their hard work pay off into these new opportunities. But there's also this grave sense of loss and nostalgia as the kid that you've raised since birth is getting ready to move out of the house and move on, and you can't help but reflect on when they were little and when they were young and how they used to sit in your lap or hold your hand. During this time, your child is ambivalent as well. And so you might see them fluctuate between, I called you 37 times in 42 seconds and you didn't answer, why didn't you answer? What are you doing that's more important than talking to me? All the way to, don't talk to me, I'm an adult, I'm 18, don't treat me like a child, I'm independent, I can make my own choices. And that fluctuation that you see between those two ends is your child's ambivalence as well. And so today, we're going to talk about how you can, as a parent, help your child navigate this upcoming transition successfully. So the first part, on Tuesday, we talked to the students about time management and accountability. And so as a parent, you can start allowing them more opportunities to take on more responsibilities, and in turn, then more failures. Fight the parental urge that we have to save our kids when they're about to make a misstep. Allow them to face those consequences of those choices, and allow them to struggle and provide space for them to be unhappy or upset. Many adults reflect on their years in college as the golden years or the best years of our life. However, we're pretty far removed from that time in our life. And so we can forget that genuine heartache of being homesick during freshman year or the pure consuming stress of midterms. So we don't want to force the expectation on our kids of this is supposed to be the happiest you'll be in your life. Because it might not be, and that's okay. We want to give them that space to have that sadness and that frustration, to make those choices, figure out what they're doing, and be unhappy and face consequences. We also want to encourage our kids to make their own decisions by supporting their autonomy without being critical or judgmental. When we're compassionate and supportive, our kids are much more likely to learn from their mistakes as opposed to us criticizing them or shaming them. Even if we foresaw the consequence that they didn't see, it's not helpful to tell our kids, hey, I told you so. Instead of saying, I told you so, we can talk about how can we prepare for this next time? How could you do this differently in the future? What can we take away from this lesson? Another thing that you can do to help your kids transition as a parent is, starting right now, expect to see your kid less often. As we turn the corner, this is the last week of school for a lot of districts. Today's even the last day for quite a few districts of school. Many parents want to grasp onto the idea that this is our last summer together as a family, that this is the last chance we have to all be in the same place at the same time. However, our kids don't see it as our last chance with our families. They see it as their last chance with their friends. So allow them the time and space to find this closure with their friends, because at the end of the day, your child will come back and stay with you over breaks. Your child will always be your child. That relationship will surpass many of the relationships that they might end up closing over this summer as they and their friends move on different paths in life and progress in different directions. Similarly, allow them to set the pace of involvement in communication, which will translate to them determining how often they call you when they ultimately go to college. Because when we let them determine that level of involvement, we're validating our confidence in them, and that's something that they carry with them. As far as allowing them that over the summer, that also then helps start us on the weaning process of reducing how often and how much we're used to talking to our kids. The next way to help support our kids in this transition is to have clear conversations about financial planning and budgeting. What are you going to pay for, if anything? What is expected to be a cost that your child takes on? Maybe you're paying for books and supplies, but any late night snack runs or going to movies with their new friends or anything like that is their own cost. Make sure that as they transition out of the house, everyone's on the same page before they leave. It's also important to teach our kids how to be responsible with money, and more specifically to teach them about the pros, cons, benefits, and dangers of credit cards. They become easy prey for credit card debt at this age when they're out from underneath our supervision and starting to figure things out on their own. And the best way to combat that is for them to have knowledge. Another conversation that you want to have before they leave is discuss what your ideal role is in their academics, what they want your role to be in academics, and figure out where to meet in the middle. Will you have access to their grades? What are your expectations for their grades? What are the potential consequences if they fall short in terms of grades? We don't want to blindside our kids with consequences that they're not expecting, such as, oh, you got a D in that class, so I'm not going to load your campus cash anymore. Unexpected consequence allow our kids more of an opportunity to place blame rather than take on accountability. It allows them to say, well, I didn't know that was going to happen, so it's not my fault. Whereas if the expectations are clear going into school, hey, this is what it's going to look like if this is what your grades look like, that opens the door for them to be like, okay, I knew this was coming. I was expecting this. It's also important to remember that college freshmen tend to perform worse academically than they did in high school. So allow them, especially in the first semester, so allow them that time and that grace to transition and adjust to new educational standards. And rather than punishing or criticizing them if they're not performing as well as you would want them to, look for opportunities to help connect them to maybe on-campus resources or ways that they can feel more confident in the work that they're doing. You can also shift the focus more specifically from grades to what are you learning in your classes, what theories are coming up, what topics are interesting you, and broadening it into a larger academic conversation instead of just grades. Another way to help support your kid through this transition is to keep them informed of changes at home while they're away. As much as they feel ready to be out and on their own, the sense of security they have in being able to make that leap comes from knowing that they will always have home base to come land back down on. And so if there's a bunch of changes to home while they're gone and they don't know about that and they come back, it damages that sense of security and that sense of trust they have about having that home base. So if you plan to move houses, definitely let your kid know. Or even rooms within the house. If they have a younger sibling that's going to be moving into their bedroom, or if you're converting their bedroom into a game room or a guest room, make sure to let them know so that the first time they see that isn't when they come back for their first break. Similarly, if a family member, including a pet, gets ill or passes away, make sure they have that information before they come home. Again, we have this parental instinct to want to protect our kids, and we think, I don't want to add any more stress. I don't want them to have to worry about us having to put the family dog down while they're in the middle of midterms. However, as they continue to get further along in life, life does not wait for opportune moments to spring bad news on us. And so when we give them that information in the moment, we're helping them develop the skill set they need to navigate tough news whenever and however it comes up for the rest of their life. As far as keeping them connected to home and home being that home base, find fun ways to help them feel senses of home while they're gone. You can send them care packages with silly family photos, or some home-baked goods, or some of their favorite snacks that you always have on hand, so that they have that sense of connection and they know that they're missed and they know that they're thought of. It's also important to allow your child to create their own experience. As parents, we often try to relate to our kids by saying, well, when I was your age, or when I was in college. And so we have to acknowledge that times are different. Things have changed. And on top of that, while these are always well-intentioned sentiments, it can close our kids off to us. They may feel less comfortable sharing their experiences with us for fear that we won't be able to relate, or that we're not going to be able to understand what it's like for them in this day and age. It can also make our kids feel as though we're trying to make things about us, that we're redirecting the attention from their story to our story. And while we know that's not our intention and we're just trying to relate to them, that sometimes gets lost in translation. And so avoid tying their experience into your own, and give them that space to just create whatever their experience is for them, and to share that with you. The last thing that we're going to talk about in terms of preparing our kids to transition successfully is preparing to relearn the relational dynamic when they come home for breaks, whether it's a long holiday weekend, Thanksgiving break, or the much longer winter break, or the much longer summer break. We want to have clear expectations and boundaries in the household when they come home. And when it's appropriate, allow for some negotiation around things like curfew and wake-up times. Opening the door to compromise and approaching the boundaries through a lens of collaboration will help minimize conflict. So for example, they might be used to staying up until odd hours of the night, going out whenever they want, waking up whenever they want. And those are things that might drive you up a wall. If they don't come home by 11 o'clock, you may not be able to go to sleep comfortably, not knowing if they're safe or not. And so looking for solutions like hourly check-ins. If, hey, you're going to stay out past 11, text me every hour just saying that you're okay. And if you change locations, give me an update. Or finding something where they still get some of the freedom and the autonomy that they're used to, but then we also get the peace of mind we need as a parent with a kid back in the house. The other part of the relational dynamic that you'll have to be prepared to relearn when your kid comes back for breaks is that they might bring home new looks, new friends, new politics, ideas, or theories, and that's okay. College is about self-exploration and trying new things. You don't have to agree or condone with some of their changes. However, it is wise to be intentional about the battles that you want to pick in regards to the changes that you're seeing. Not all of these changes will be permanent, and they may be trying some new things on for size as they explore and figure things out for themselves. And so keep that in mind when and if you choose to address some of the changes that you notice with them when they come back home. During these transitions that are upcoming, expect change. And as we started the talk with today, when we expect change, we know that comes with loss. And so next week, we'll begin discussing how you can come together with your kid to not only expect changes, but to embrace them and approach them as a unified front. Until next week, thanks for taking a break with me again today. I hope to see you back for another coffee break soon. In the meantime, take care of yourself, each other, and remember that we here at North Range are here to help. If you or someone you know is experiencing a behavioral health crisis, you can reach out to our crisis team at 970-347-2120 and press 2 to speak to crisis services. You can text TALK, T-A-L-K, to 38255, or you can walk into our 24/7 crisis building at 928 12th Street in Greeley, Colorado. Thanks again for having coffee with me this afternoon, and I look forward to seeing you next week.